Thank you. That was longer than Senator Biden's answer. Senator Todd?
Every one of his answers are longer than my answer. I think he's colorblind. I'm not sure.
Senator Dodd?
It's going to be a long year, I can see. First thing I try and do, look, is change the discourse, the shrillness of the discussion in this country. Here, we're divided as a country, as we're seated here, by the political leadership. That has to change. Every other subject matter we're talking about depends upon having a president that will change the nature of our conversation. We care about the same things. We want the same things. We have leadership that appeals to the divisions, not the unity we all feel as Americans. I've said the very first day, I'll do whatever I can by executive power to give you back your Constitution. I've been campaigning on it daily for the last year and a half, been active trying to legislate in this area. Certainly the war, but also a robust diplomacy in the Middle East as well. It isn't just about ending the war. It's about engaging in a constructive and positive way to offer some hope for people. And I won't wait till January 20th. On health care and energy policy, a week after the election, I'll convene people to begin talking about the stakeholders coming together to shape a policy that will give us answers on those two issues.
Senator Edwards?
Well, and I'm listening. There are an awful lot of promises being made in the first year of the presidency. I think people deserve to know the truth. We're faced with huge, huge challenges and all the things that we want to do. And I will end the war. I'll close Guantanamo. I'll restore people's civil liberties. And I'll begin the process of fighting for health care reform, universal health care, attacking global warming. But none of those things are going to happen unless we have a President of the United States who calls on the American people to join together to take this democracy and take this country back. Because what's happening in America today is absolutely clear. We have a small group of entrenched interests, corporate powers, corporate greed, the most wealthy people in America who are controlling what's happening in the democracy, and we have to take it back, starting right here now.
Thank you. Senator Clinton.
Well, I'm going to be busy because I know how important it is to get started and get started quickly. So I will begin to end the war in Iraq and bring all of our troops home. I will send bipartisan emissaries around the world with a very simple message. The era of cowboy diplomacy is over. We're going to start working together to try to find common ground wherever possible. I will review every executive order, rescind those that undermine the Constitution and betray the rule of law, and issue some, like, for example, not interfering with science and ending Bush's war on science. I'll ask the Congress to send me everything that Bush vetoed, like stem cell research and the Children's Health Insurance Program, and begin to prepare my legislative and budget proposals for the Congress, because you have to move quickly in order to get off to a good start, and that's what I intend to do.
Thank you. We're going to shift gears a bit. Voters have told us that character and leadership qualities matter as much or more than many issues. The next set of questions is entirely about character and leadership, and you'll have a minute to answer. Senator Clinton, during your time as First Lady, there were criticisms that your process to develop your health care plan was too closed and secretive. Some Iowans we hear from are worried that your presidency would operate the same way. As president, how would you ensure that your administration doesn't withhold information from the public, even if it gave ammunition to your critics?
Well, I learned a lot from that experience, and clearly one of the principal lessons is that you have to have a very strong communication strategy, and we didn't do that. And I have certainly learned from that during the remaining years in the White House when I helped to create the Children's Health Insurance Program and did a lot of other work with the Clinton administration, and of course now in the Senate. I want to have an open and transparent government. I have put forth very specific plans for how I would reform the government, put as much as we can on the internet. Now we've got this tool, let's use it. Let's have as much sunlight as we possibly can gather. Let's also make sure that we have an administration that works with the Congress instead of stonewalling and denying legitimate requests for information and witness testimony and all the rest that this administration unfortunately has done. I think it's also very important that we end the revolving door of lobbyists, that we move toward public financing. I've signed on to Russ Feingold's bill because I think it is the best piece of legislation to try to make those changes. So I'm very committed to open, transparent government, and I've learned a lot, and I think I can apply those lessons.
Thank you. Senator Biden, you and your campaign have had a number of occasions to correct or clarify things you've said relating to race, including your remarks about Senator Obama being, quote, clean and articulate, your comment about Indians working at 7-Eleven, and recently to the Washington Post in which you spoke about race while describing disparities between schools in Washington, D.C. and Iowa. Do these gaffes or misunderstandings, or however you would characterize them, indicate you're uncomfortable talking about race, or are people just being too sensitive?
I think that I have my whole career. I got involved in public policy. I got involved in politics because of the civil rights movement. It's the overwhelming core of my support in my home state. I get the overwhelming majority, over 95% of the vote of minorities in my state. I may have phrased those things wrongly, but when I talked about the Indian population, what I was making the point was they're building families. They're coming by businesses, 7-Elevens and Dunkin' Donuts and small shops, just like those Italian immigrants used to do, and they're building families. The point I was making about the inner city of Washington is the point that Barack just made. Barack made the point, he said that minorities start off at a disadvantage. They start off with a gap. An achievement gap that exists before they even walk into school, minorities. And so I was making the same point. It may be possible because I speak so bluntly that people misunderstand, but no one who knows me in my state, no one who I've worked with in the United States Congress has ever wondered about my commitment to civil rights and civil liberties. And if you take a look at my record as chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, of the Judiciary Committee, ranking member, chairman for 16 years, starting with the Voting Rights Act and worked its way through to voting against constitutional amendments on busing when busing was taking place in my state. My credentials are as good as anyone who's ever run for president of the United States on civil rights.
Here.
Senator Obama?
I just wanted to. I just want to make the comment. I've worked with Joe Biden. I've seen his leadership. I have absolutely no doubt about what is in his heart and the commitment that he's made with respect to racial equality in this country. So I will provide some testimony, as they say in church, that Joe is on the right side of the issues and is fighting every day for a better America.
Thank you. Senator Edwards, you've talked a lot about reducing the power of wealth and special interests in the country. The same groups often responsible for getting things done in Washington, too. How will you accomplish your agenda after spending a lot of months calling these groups corrupt?
Well, here's what I believe. What I believe is that there are very well-financed insurance companies, drug companies, oil companies. Some people argue that we're going to sit at a table with these people and they're going to voluntarily give their power away. I think it is a complete fantasy. It will never happen. I don't think anybody in America wants to see politicians fighting with each other. But I think they understand that we have an epic battle in front of us to do what needs to be done for all the American people. All the things that we've talked about today, health care, attacking global warming, doing something about a tax policy that favors big corporations and the richest Americans, doing something about our trade policy, every single one of those things depends on winning this battle. We cannot do it if we don't win this battle. And all I would say is I've been fighting these people, big corporations, for 20 years in courtrooms and then in public life. I have been fighting them my entire life. And I have been winning my entire life. And if you want a fighter, to voters, to caucus goers, you are looking at somebody, I'm 54 years old, who has spent his entire life engaged in this fight and winning this fight that we must win to be able to do the things that we want to do for this country.
Thank you. Senator Dodd, you write in your book that you still struggle with the memories of when your father, former Senator Thomas Dodd, was censured by the Senate in 1967 for alleged misuse of campaign money. How much are you motivated in your run for president by a desire to restore the Dodd family name that was hurt by the censure?
I'm motivated by my family because of their public service. About a week or two before my father passed away some 40 years ago, he was asked by a reporter, Carolyn, if he'd do it all over again in light of his lost election and what had happened to him. I'll never forget sitting in the room and hearing his answer that day. He said he'd do it again in a minute. But he started the first National Youth Administration in my home state of Connecticut in 1933 as part of Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal. He said there's no other calling in life where you can do as much for as many people as you can through public service. Lawyers only have so many clients, doctors only so many patients, but a well-intentioned public servant can make a difference in the lives of millions of people. That's my motivation. I want to carry that tradition on. That's why I'm running for president.
Thank you. Governor Richardson, you promote your experience as Energy Secretary among your credentials. During that time, though, there were serious questions about lax security at the country's national labs, allegations that scientist Wen-Ho Lee breached security at Los Alamos. You told Tim Russert in May we had some issues with the nuclear secrets issue and Wen-Ho Lee, but I think on the whole I was a good energy secretary. In this era when Americans are fearful about our national security, talk about that part of your resume.